Thinking traps are common patterns and ways of thinking that distort reality and feed negative emotions. Think of them as brain errors that happen so often that scientists and psychologists name these repetitive patterns of thinking. Sometimes, when we're feeling anxious or scared, we fall into these patterns in our mind and we get stuck in negative cycles. That's why we call them thinking traps. Say you're learning how to drive and you're feeling pretty worried about it. You haven't been driving for a long time, and you get pretty anxious whenever you try to drive somewhere. Here's one example of a worry you might have. If I don't research where to park ahead of time, I'll get a parking ticket at my next appointment. Now, what's potentially inaccurate about this statement? Well, is it 100% true that you'll get a parking ticket? Might it be possible that you won't get a ticket? This is one example of fortune telling, when we think we have the power to predict the future with certainty, when in reality, no one has the power to do that. How might we adjust this to make it more accurate and balanced? Instead, we could say, if I don't research where to park ahead of time, it's possible I'll get a parking ticket at my upcoming appointment. You can also ask yourself what happened in similar situations in the past. Have I been able to find parking without researching it before? Notice how we've added the words, "it's possible," to show that we don't exactly know whether we'll get a ticket or not. Also observe that our thoughts don't have to be super positive for them to be balanced. In this example, we're acknowledging that we still might get a ticket, but now we're also acknowledging that we don't know for sure. We can even say, "it's not likely," or "it's probable," to show different degrees of certainty without making a 100% definitive statement. Let's try another one. Say you're driving and you're doing a right turn, but your turn was just a bit wider than it should have been, and for a split second, you're partially in the other lane. You think to yourself, "Oh, the person in the car behind me thinks I'm a reckless driver because of my horrible right turn." Now, what's potentially inaccurate about this statement? Well, do we know for certain what the person in the car behind me is thinking? Is it possible that they might be worried about getting to work on time or thinking about what to eat for lunch? This is an example of mind reading, a thinking trap in which we mistakenly believe we have telepathic powers and that we know what other people are thinking. In reality, we can't know for sure. Now, how might we adjust the worry to make it more accurate and balanced? Let's try and reframe it. Instead, you could say, "The other drivers might not have noticed my mistake. If I saw someone make a turn like that, would I think that they were a reckless driver too? Why or why not? An extra wide turn means I overestimated the degree of turning I needed to do. That teaches me to be more mindful in that situation next time, but it doesn't mean that I'm reckless the same way I wouldn't think that someone else was reckless for doing the same thing." In this balanced thought, we acknowledge that it's possible that other drivers are thinking about other things and not just focused on our driving mistakes. Today, we covered 2 thinking traps, fortune telling and mind reading, and then we learned how to balance them. But there's actually way more thinking traps to learn about, and we encourage you to learn about them all. Gaining an understanding of thinking traps helps you know when not to trust what you think. For more information on thinking traps and how to cope with anxious thinking, check out our website at anxietycanada.com. Or you can download our free app, MindShift CBT, which has a tool that lets you record all of your worries and thinking traps in a dedicated thought journal.